My brother-in-law makes his wife his slave via weaponized incompetence, until I reveal everything at dinner. I, 24, have a sister who's 32. Her husband is 38 and is the poster child of weaponized incompetence. They have 4 kids, a 10-year-old girl and 3 boys, 8, 5, and 3 respectively. And my sister is pregnant again. My sister works a full-time job, like 40 hours a week, and cleans her entire house, cooks, takes care of all of her children without him doing anything. It's seriously mind-blowing that she wakes up at about 4 a.m., cooks breakfast, does chores, gets all her kids ready for school, takes them all to school and daycare, and all he does is stay at home and work. And when his kids get home, after my sister picks them up of course, he'll play with them for a little bit and then just play video games until he falls asleep. She actually makes more money than him. My fiancé, a 26-year-old guy, and I had to stay with them for 6 weeks while our home was being renovated, and since we both work from home, we helped her, and it is amazing how much happier she is when she has help. I helped with the kids, and my fiancé even drove her to her doctor's appointments. Her husband literally only acknowledges that he's a parent when his family is around, and then he's a God-fearing, hard-working father of 5. He's the one that wanted more kids. She wanted to stop after her last baby, but he, quote, needed more boys. I'm seriously concerned not only for her, but her kids as well, because now her oldest is seeing what's happening and trying to help. But my sister is prideful and refuses to let her child do anything. Me and this man have never gotten along. He's been acting like this since their 8-year-old was born. I've tried talking to her about leaving, but she doesn't want her kids to grow up in a broken home. And unfortunately, her experience with our parents was completely different than mine. So she doesn't understand that a divorce could benefit her kids here because she thinks they need their mum and dad together. So cut to this past weekend. Her and her husband threw a pre-Thanksgiving potluck where our entire family and his were there. I stayed with my sister a few days before because I knew he just wouldn't help set up. So we were at dinner, all talking, and I mentioned we're trying for a baby, and my brother-in-law makes an offhand comment to my fiancé about how hard fatherhood is. And I snapped and said, yeah, like you'd know. He looks taken aback and asked what I meant, and I unloaded on him, calling him a pathetic excuse for a man who makes my 8 months pregnant sister do everything for their family. I went off for a solid 10 minutes and he sat there shrinking in his seat. I left. Last night my sister called me and thanked me for standing up for her and told me she appreciated me. Although today I got a very nasty text from him telling me I'm a terrible person and because I lied in front of his family, his mum is angry at him and is moving in with him to help her out. And honestly, I've made him the laughingstock of his family. He certainly thinks so, but am I the jerk for doing this? Honestly, the fact that your sister actually agrees with you and the fact his mum isn't finding out that you lied after moving in should speak volumes to literally everyone involved in the situation. If this is really just a matter of skewed perspectives and you were biased against him, I'm certain that other people would have called you out pretty quickly, or at the very least you would have been imminently proven wrong. The guy is probably just angry that his mum is moving in to help, to which I say, ha! Probably well deserved. I hope she drives him to pull his weight around the house. None of this is to say that there's anything wrong with men earning less than their wives or being stay-at-home full-time parents. That is not what's happening here. It sounds like one parent is pulling the vast majority of the weight. And not only is this guy just not helping out enough, he's piling another load onto her by insisting on adding another kid to the family. Also, what's with him needing more boys? Why do you care about that kind of gender divide? The lads in that household already outnumber the ladies 2 to 1. Is that not enough odds for whatever strange equation this guy is working on? I really hope that he gets his act together. His wife and kids would benefit a lot from his help. Am I the jerk for no longer letting my boyfriend eat what I cook after he rated my food in front of my family? My boyfriend Jerry has a culinary art diploma. He works 2 jobs related to his field, one as a chef in a restaurant and another as a cooking instructor. We've been dating for about 16 months now, by the way. I had no real experience in cooking, but he encouraged me to learn and helped my skills improve so much, even though he has a habit of rating every meal I cook, which I find a bit rude. For example, this meal gets 7 out of 10, or Y meal gets 8.3 out of 10, or even this meal would have gotten 9 out of 10 if the sauce wasn't so salty. I didn't feel great with him rating my food, no matter the score, but he says he's helping me improve, so yeah. My family came over to visit and I wanted to cook their favorite meals. Jerry sat with my parents and chatted until the food was ready. He started eating and kept making comments about my choice of meals. Once he put his fork down, he cleared his throat and literally started rating every dish I made by giving me 7 out of 10 for this, 4.8 out of 10 for this, and 6 out of 10 for this. My family was so confused and I was flawed. I felt awful as he kept giving advice on how to improve my score for next time. He kept a straight face while doing it. It was just awkward the entire time. We had a huge argument after my family left and I told Jerry that he acted poorly and embarrassed me when he started rating my food in front of my family. I said to him that I won't have him eat what I cook anymore. He said I was overreacting and claimed what he was doing was just constructive criticism, and I shouldn't take it personally since he's just used to rating his students' work. I said I wasn't his dang student and he wasn't Gordon Ramsay to be heavily putting my efforts down in front of family. He got offended and said my reaction was way over the top since he was just giving constructive criticism in order for me to make progress, and said he was trying to help and that the Gordon Ramsay comment was totally uncalled for and just a low blow to his abilities as a respectable chef with a respectable career. He then asked what made me think it was okay to come at him like that over a few ratings. He stated he was hurt and went to stay with a friend for the night, probably expecting an apology from me. Am I the jerk? So I'm going to be way too forgiving here and momentarily give Jerry some benefit of the doubt and say that maybe he's coming at this from a flawed but well-meaning place and genuinely wants to help you out without realizing how rude he's being. But yeah, mate, when your partner tells you that they don't want you to do that, you've got to stop doing that. She's your partner, not one of your employees or students. Speaking as a guy who's normally the better cook in his different relationships, sometimes, for the sake of keeping the peace and making other people happy, you have to just grit your teeth and eat the food in front of you. It's a lesson most of us learned as kids. Partners who spent a hard day working or being parents or whatever life is throwing at them don't need that kind of thing hurled in their face when they finally sit down to dinner after a hard day. Again, maybe we'll put this down to you being insensitive instead of malicious, but come on. Would you want someone pointing out your shortcomings at anything in front of your parents? Smarten up emotionally, Jerry. You're behaving like a jerk. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for demanding my sister's husband pay for my girlfriend's dress that he ruined at his wedding? My sister, who's 26, recently got married to one of those "it's just a prank, bro" guys. The guy is hysterical. He laughs at any and everything that he lays eyes on. He jokes, teases, makes fun, and pulls very nasty and cruel pranks all the time. It's like he has no filter. Some people said he's just mentally ill, especially after he started telling jokes at his own father's funeral and almost caused my sister to get injured from his "count the stairs" prank. Me and my family got our fair share of his ridiculous pranking campaign and we've had enough. But to him, that's nowhere near enough apparently. The kids love him and say he's fun, so that's one positive thing about him, I guess. The wedding was days ago. Once he learned I was bringing my girlfriend, who he teased and pranked a couple of times, he started making comments about pulling some funny pranks at the wedding. I told him I won't react well and he can do with this info what he will. He just laughed me off. Kind of laugh. And then I didn't see him until the wedding. After the ceremony and while the guests were eating, he saw me and my girlfriend standing talking to several guests and mutual friends, and he approached us with a glass of milk in his hand. No idea why he had it or where he got it from. And he kept commenting on me and my girlfriend. He invited me to propose to her right then, so the memory of the proposal will always be overshadowed by his wedding. Then he said, "Relax, just a joke, bro," then laughed. My girlfriend was standing next to me in her $320 dress when my brother-in-law pointed to the left and shouted, "Hey, look! There's a dog over there!" Me, my girlfriend, looked to the left and the next thing I knew he threw the milk from his glass onto her dress. It was a blue dress. My girlfriend was so shocked she froze. He started laughing, saying, "Heh, gotcha." I was stunned and then I asked him what the hell he did that for. I lashed out at him as my girlfriend rushed to clean up and I called him obnoxious and mean because he shouldn't have done that. He said he was just messing with us and my girlfriend should feel lucky for being served milk at a wedding, and that she was being too uptight and couldn't take a joke. She left looking angry and didn't respond to my calls. I was livid. After my argument with my brother-in-law, I left. The next day I called him and my sister about what happened, and I told them I'm expecting him to pay $320 for the dress he ruined. My girlfriend doesn't work. Her parents paid for her dress, so they're equally as upset as her, if not more. My sister said my girlfriend and her parents shouldn't be spending that much on a dress if they can't handle the possibility of it being ruined by any chance. My girlfriend is 20 years old. I offered to get the dress cleaned, but she said she no longer wants it due to the bad memory attached since she wore it for the first time that day. She suffers from anxiety and depression, so I get why she no longer feels comfortable keeping it. My sister's now husband threw a fit saying it was just a prank, and my sister said milk doesn't ruin a dress, and said an apology should do, but I said no and demanded he pay $320 after humiliating and getting my girlfriend wet and messy. My sister argued, saying I'm being overprotective of my girlfriend, but I hung up and told them they had till Friday. Am I the jerk? God damn, this one made the narrator angry. What's the prank here? You haven't fooled anyone, you haven't pulled any grand social experiment, you've just done property damage. Although I can't relate to having an outfit ruined for me forever because of the memory associated with it, at least not yet, I feel like I know a few people who'd have a similar reaction to the girlfriend. Maybe the author needs to pull a few pranks of his own and try to paint this guy an illustration of what he's doing. Whoops! Spilled a pint of beer directly into your PS5. Don't worry, bro, it's just a prank, so you don't get to charge me. Oops! Cut all of your trousers into assless chaps. Prank, bro! Get out of jail free on reimbursement. I wish I could say that would teach him a lesson or make him rethink his ways, but honestly, people like this rarely have the capacity to do so I wouldn't hold out hope. How much water do you want, exactly? I deliver bulk water to people who don't have access to city water or their own private well. For nearly all customers, it's a pretty simple process. Either they call for deliveries or they've agreed to automatic deliveries. When I show up, I hook the truck up to the fill pipe and start pumping, and either listen at the vent or hook up an installed alarm in order to know when the holding tank is full. This particular customer had their holding tank installed in a small utility room next to their living room and didn't install a vent to the outside. They refused to allow us to install an alarm because they didn't want us to put the 1/4 inch hole in the wall to run the alarm wire. So the solution? They call when they need 2,000 gallons of water and we show up and pump exactly 2,000 gallons of water. This procedure worked without flaw for over a decade. Literally hundreds of deliveries with no issue. Cue the owner deciding to sell. We're contacted by the new owners and set them up as a new account and head over for our first delivery and meeting. We especially go over the issue with us being totally unable to tell when the tank is full. We offered to install the alarm again for free, but they declined. So we let them know when they call for water they must be sure they have enough room in the tank for 2,000 gallons, or that they should let us know how much water they have room for. We went over this several times and they laughed, saying they understood and would be calling for when they were below the 2,000 gallon mark. 2 weeks go by and we receive a message on our answering machine from the new customer and no gallon amount is specified. This set off a warning bell though because it was a household of 2 people and it's only been 2 weeks since we filled them up last. That's highly abnormal. We expect more like 5 weeks. So we call back just to double check. No answer, so we leave a message asking for confirmation. Multiple hours later, we try again. By the next day, we'd left 4 messages asking to confirm that they were ready for a full load. No reply. Well, they did call, so the boss sends me out. I knock on the door as a last attempt, and still no answer, so I hook up, start the pump, and set the timer so I don't overpump while I'm reading my book. 15 minutes later, I hop out to check the water meter. 1,700 gallons. Okay. I'll watch for the next couple of minutes and shut it down. That's when I hear the front door burst open, and the woman who brought the house and had called us in yesterday is screaming to shut the water down. There is water everywhere. What the hell are we doing? This woman has been ignoring our calls and even ignored me at her door, and now she's screaming at me. Apparently she had called when the tank was half full instead of down below the mark showing where the 2,000 gallons is, and she had just disregarded all our messages and didn't feel like talking to me when I knocked. So now she has 700 or more gallons of water in her living room. The boss was called out so she could scream at him. The husband came from work so that he too could scream at us. For reasons, I guess. They made a lot of demands about how we were going to pay to fix it. Nope. The boss laid down how he saw the situation. You can keep the water free of charge, just don't call us for water anymore. You're just too stupid to work with. We never heard from them again. Broken heart on our parts. In short, customer chooses to ignore simple procedure and receives 800 gallons of water into their living room. Yeah, it's so heartbreaking to lose a customer who's simultaneously incapable of good communication and accepting responsibility for their part of the blame. Maybe these customers were new to this sort of setup and didn't properly understand what would happen if they overfilled. In any case, it sounds like you guys got away scot-free, so evidently, whoever they might have complained to found that they had no case. Your company made every effort to communicate and properly sort it out. It does suck for them that they didn't get a small-scale demonstration of why they had to pay attention on this particular matter, and I'm not so sure they deserved water damage just for being a bit dumb, but that's what they got, I guess. Maybe they'll be more careful next time. They're only slight jerks. Booked a hotel just for a meal. Several years ago, when I was working for a construction company, I used to spend a lot of time out on construction sites. My company had a pretty good travel and meal policy, so I never had any issues. But one rule they did have was that you could purchase meals on the company credit card only if you were doing an overnight stay. The idea was that they didn't want meals to be charged to the company if you were just driving back home each night anyway. Most of my work sites were pretty far off, so this never made much difference to me, as I always stayed at a hotel during these trips. One project needed me to work at a place that was 45 minutes away from my home. I wanted to go home each night and sleep in my own bed, but I was told I couldn't incur food expenses as I wasn't staying overnight. I just wanted to eat dinner before I went back home, but I wasn't allowed. The commute wasn't from home to the office or workplace, it was from home to the construction site. The company had a 50-mile minimum distance requirement to book hotels. The construction site was 60 miles away from my home and office, because I lived close to my office, and where I lived, it took about 45 minutes to drive. Hence, I was eligible for hotel accommodation, but apparently not just for food. And so began my malicious compliance. I began to book hotel stays costing $150 a night and incurred food expenses of $50 a day. Now I was charging lunch, dinner, and the morning breakfast. So in the end, the company paid close to $1,000 of expenses because of a policy that would have otherwise cost them max $50. Nobody asked anything about it because firstly, it was a very large company, and secondly, they knew I hadn't broken any rules. I feel like you could have just bought a sandwich or something, man, but then again, if they're going to make you get home past dinner time, perhaps they could have just footed the bill for a Subway sandwich and not tempted you to take that drastic action in the first place. And as you say, this is apparently a large enough company that they didn't notice $1,000 being spent frivolously. So, more or less a victimless crime as long as they don't start cutting the expenses on a bunch of other things because of your galaxy brain move. Entitled mother removes my doorknob. She couldn't handle it. My mom is a typical tiger mom, Asian American slang for helicopter parent. One of her many toxic traits was that she demanded access to my room at all times, so my door had no lock. So one morning she was snooping around my room as I was asleep, and she found my nicotine products. Yeah, it's bad for you, but this isn't what the story's about, and I never used it in the house. After an earful, I decided that my privacy would be breached no longer, as I'm no longer a minor. I bring home from my local Home Depot a lock-and-key doorknob, much to my mum's rage. After a couple of days, I got careless and left my door open as I was eating breakfast, and I returned to the knob being drilled out by a smug old lady. I was angry at her and myself, but I let it go because I had nothing to hide, really, at this point. Came to find out she only removed solely the knob and not the inner sliding mechanism that keeps the door closed. This effectively made it a ton of work to open my door without a really tough-skinned thumb or pen. So the following week, she'd attempt to enter the room only to fumble the mechanism and give up. She'd try telling me to let her in, to which I'd respond that she may, the door was unlocked. This also gives me time to set up my image as a good man, studying, as she walks away to get something to pry the door open. After a while, she returned my lock and knob since I threw away my lockless one. A couple of lectures later, she now only tries to pin me for trouble outside the comfort of my room. To everyone saying her house, her rules, my little rebellion above got her to adjust the rule, so who really won the battle, huh? It's my dad's house as well, and he respects the lock. It's always fun to see some smart-ass kid on helicopter parent action. I'd say she's way too overbearing, but you're also being a little crapbag, so honestly, you probably deserve each other. I'd say that her lack of respect for privacy is a bit worse than your disrespect for her authority, so we'll say that she's the bigger jerk here. If I had parents who crashed into and searched my room, I know that I would have moved out a lot sooner. You need to feel safe in the place you live in, and the stress of someone sprinting in and conducting a substance check and making it impossible to have overnight guests is just a bit nuts for my taste. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.